repapering, and repairing. But you won't have to recaulk. Not if right now you try new GE Silicone 2. A caulk so advanced it'll stick practically everywhere and stay flexible for 50 years, right through the year 2020. New GE Silicone 2, the caulk with the future in it.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. From the new WCCO Television Communications Center in the Twin Cities, this is the 5 p.m. Report. With Don Shelby, Ann Rubenstein, Bud Kraling, and Ralph John Fritz.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 5 p.m. Report, coming to you from our new WCCO TV Communications Center at 11th and Nicollet.
Thanks for joining us today. We are very excited about being in our new building, and we think you'll enjoy our new look. We're following several national and local stories this afternoon. First, this is primary election day in the Twin Cities and in several other communities across the state. In Minneapolis, party nominations will be decided by the voters for 13 city council seats. Voters will also select candidates in nonpartisan races for several park board seats. In St. Paul, we're watching the mayoral primary, the school board election, and the races for 5 city council seats. The polls open this morning at 7 and will remain open until 8 this evening. We, of course, will be bringing you all of the returns throughout the evening, and a bit later on the 5 p.m. report, we will have live reports from Karen Boros and Alan Cox on the primaries in the Twin Cities. In national politics, a familiar face and name, George McGovern, has entered the presidential race. 11 years ago, McGovern accepted the Democratic presidential nomination at his party's convention. He'll try to seek that nomination again, the third time he has run for president. In '72, he ran against Richard Nixon and was defeated in a landslide. The former South Dakota senator was advised by friends and families not to run this year, but he announced his candidacy this afternoon. McGovern is expected to campaign hard against Reagan's policies.
If I did not believe with all my heart and strength that I have the capacity to lead this great nation away from the abyss and into the ways that make for peace.
McGovern is expected to campaign hard against President Reagan's policies.
And President Reagan has given the U.S. Marine contingent in Beirut more leeway in defending themselves. An administration official says the president has decided to let Marine commanders in Beirut order airstrikes to defend our troops if they come under attack. The decision means the U.S. commander in Beirut will not have to ask Washington for permission to strike back with naval air power when his troops are being shelled. Japanese officials are playing down an incident today in which 2 Soviet bombers and 2 spy planes flew within 100 miles of Japan. 8 Japanese fighter planes were scrambled to chase the Soviet planes away. The encounter happened near the area where the Soviet warships are holding maneuvers. It is the same area, by the way, where the Soviets shot down that Korean airliner just 2 weeks ago. That incident has still sparked outrage around the world, particularly at the United Nations, where 9 out of 15 nations in the Security Council voted for a resolution deploring the Soviet action. But the resolution was killed when the Soviet Union exercised its veto power. The Soviets repeated their claim that the Korean jet was on a spy mission for the United States. U.S. Ambassador Jean Kirkpatrick said the Soviets have taken an attitude that is, quote, as contemptuous of the truth as it is of human life. Meantime, Pope John Paul is returning to Rome this afternoon after winding up his 4-day visit to Austria. The Pontiff spoke this morning to 7,000 people on a mountaintop overlooking Vienna. There were many Polish immigrants in the crowd, some of whom carried the red-white banner of the Solidarity Labor Union organization.
A tentative agreement has been reached that may settle the strike by 2 unions against American Hoist and Derrick Company of St. Paul. 450 machinists and 160 foundry workers walked off their jobs June 1st. They have been striking over wages, benefits, and jurisdiction. The plant has been operating at a slower pace since then. The company produces cranes. Both unions vote on the new proposal Thursday. If it's ratified, workers will be back on their jobs in just a few days. State of Minnesota got some positive economic news today. Revenue collections for the month of August were up $16.2 million. Officials say the extra money came from individual income tax withholding. They caution, though, that until we see increases in employment and sales tax figures, the state cannot be assured of total economic recovery. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost nearly 5 points, closing at 1224.09. Trading was active.
And our live reports on today's Minneapolis and St. Paul primary elections are up next on the Tuesday 5. The time now is about 6 minutes past the hour of 5.
Every year at this time, Glidden gets ready for a factory sale. We stock up on the paint so we can cut down on the price. And this year, you can pick up famous spread satin wall paint for the same low price as last year, just $9.99 a gallon. That's right, quality spread satin is on sale again for only $9.99. But you'd better hurry. With quality paint like this on sale, the price won't last forever. Glidden, when we put our promise on the label, we keep it in the can.
You know, I happened to tell my Allstate agent about how everything I have two of.
Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad.
Like 2 cars, he asked? Maybe Allstate's 2-car discount can save you money on insurance. Allstate sure saves me. I can use the money.
Noah! Dinner!
One wife.
Bring in your policy. For most folks, Allstate's multi-car discount is now even better. You're in good hands with Allstate.
In 1949, WCCO Television moved into the old Radio City Theater and began broadcasting. Now we're on the move again. It's here. The new WCCO Communication Center is now open. Tune in and you'll agree it's the best move we've ever made. WCCO Television is on the move.
As we mentioned earlier, primary elections are underway in the Twin Cities today. In St. Paul, there are 5 city council seat races. The race in the 3rd Ward has been particularly hot. Alan Cox has been covering the St. Paul election and is standing by at Highland Park Elementary School. Alan, this is not a partisan primary. How does it work exactly?
Primaries of this sort, Ann, in St. Paul are considered nonpartisan in that a party identification does not appear on the ballot beside the name of the candidates. And instead of just electing one primary winner for the IR, one primary winner for the DFL, or for other parties, the candidates without the identification on the ballot are voted in by 2s for each office. That's not to say there isn't party involvement. The DFL and the IR have made endorsement in most of the races along with some minor parties, and there has been some support for those endorsed candidates, although there are unendorsed candidates who consider themselves part of the same party. So it makes for a somewhat complicated political picture out here.
Tell us about the race in the 3rd Ward. That is the one that's supposed to be particularly heated at this point, isn't it?
It's considered perhaps the most closely contested race in St. Paul, although that's often hard to tell in the case of a primary. Here in the 3rd Ward, the incumbent council member is John Gallus, an electrician. He was appointed to this council seat here in the 3rd Ward by the mayor after Lynn Levine quit the St. Paul Council to become part of state government. He is endorsed by Labor, but he is not endorsed by the DFL, even though he considers himself a DFLer. He lost the party endorsement to Catherine Ackland, who runs her own consultant service. There is an IR endorsed candidate here, John Drew, a former state representative. He's considered a strong possibility to get one of the 2 slots. And there is a candidate endorsed by the Citizens Party, Paul Hildebrandt.
What do we know about the mayoral race at this point? What's going on with that?
There are 4 candidates. Once again, 2 of them will win today and go on to the November ballot. There doesn't seem to be much question that the incumbent mayor will move forward to the November election. The question may be how much the runner-up will score tonight.
Alan, thank you very much. We'll hear from you again at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
We've got Karen Boros at polling booths in Minneapolis. She has been following that city's primary today. Karen, what do we know about voter turnout at this point? I know it's still early.
And we are at the YWCA, which is in downtown Minneapolis. 2 precincts of the 7th Ward vote here. And so far, in Precinct 4, only 32 voters have voted today, but they're doing better than Precinct 15. Precinct 15 has had no one vote, a 0 total here.
Do you think there are going to be areas, Karen, where voter turnout has been particularly high, and if so, what's that going to mean?
Well, I talked to Minneapolis election chief Al Santo about an hour ago. He said usually by 4 o'clock in the afternoon he would expect 10% of the city to have voted. He said it is light across the entire city and that by 4 o'clock, not 10%, but only 6 or 7% of the people had voted. He did say that the 3rd Ward is probably leading the city at this point with 11 to 12%. There is a strong challenge to the incumbent alderman in the 3rd Ward, and people seem to be turning out better there, but still 11 or 12% by 4 o'clock is not even considered a heavy turnout.
Karen, what are some of the key races in Minneapolis this year?
Well, Ann, as I just said, you know, the third ward,
right.
The 5th Ward also has a DFL primary for the alderman contest. Turnout there was a little bit heavier than other places, but by no means as heavy as the 3rd Ward. There's also a Park District challenge that is taking place, where the incumbent is being challenged by 5 people who live in a 2-block area. Those folks don't like the way the Park Board wants to rebuild their street. They are challenging him. Turnout in that area, however, has not been heavy.
You mentioned the 3rd Ward, but aside from that, do we expect any big surprises tonight?
When you've got a contest like this with a low turnout, the conventional wisdom is that the incumbents would survive. But it could be different this time. It depends on whether the challengers have been able to ID their voters and get those folks out. So there is the potential for a surprise in 2 ward elections tonight.
Well, let's talk about the winners in those 2 districts where the races are pretty hotly contested at this point. Do you think they're going to have a tough time in November?
Both of those districts are dominantly DFL. Winning the primary is more or less winning the aldermanic seat. There are Republicans in both of those areas who will be challenging whoever emerges the DFL victor. But as I said, those areas have been dominated by DFLers for decades. So whoever wins the primary is 99% sure that they're probably going to go on and win the general.
Now, we know you're going to be following this all throughout the evening. You'll be bringing us live reports at 6, again at 10. Where are you going to be tonight? Who are you going to be watching?
We're going to watch the 5th Ward, and we're going to see what happens there.
Thank you very much, Karen. See you at 6.
Okay.
Going back to world news for a moment, there is a new development concerning Lebanon. President Reagan today, speaking from the White House today, gave U.S. Marines in Lebanon the authority to use airstrikes and naval shelling to defend themselves. The Marines are part of the United States peacekeeping force. They are there with people from other countries. This could bring an escalation in fighting there. Jim Gately in our Washington newsroom can explain the implications of the move. Jim? Beg your pardon, we're having a bit of technical difficulty. We're going to go to Dale Dobish, not in Washington, but up above the Twin Cities. Good afternoon, Dale.
Well, good afternoon to you, Ann, and everyone. We're looking at traffic, Ann, as you can see here on the I-94 bridge, moving along pretty much normally. In fact, right now, the only problem we noticed was a little earlier, 1 car stalled in the center lane of westbound 94 over towards Minneapolis. And about 3 cars later, a tow truck came by, pushed him off the side, and cleared that up. And that's about the extent of the problems for this afternoon. And everything's been running along very, very smoothly with no reported accidents. I hope it's going to stay that way, but of course we're keeping an eye on things out here and get back to you just a little bit later on just a beautiful afternoon out here.
We hope so too. Thank you very much. It is 13 minutes past 5, and in just a minute, Bud Kraling will be here with the forecast.
Waddle, waddle, wiggle, wobble, boing, boing, boing.
Don't worry, call the Car X-Man.
When you need shock absorbers, come see us. We carry the ones you need. Install them while you wait and guarantee them for as long as you own your car. The same is true for McPherson struts. Hey, Jimmy, show them one of our struts.
Waddle, waddle, wiggle, wobble, boing, boing, boing.
Don't worry, call the Car X-Man.
Hey, Tommy Lasorda. How do you spell relief?
Roger, I love to eat, but I don't always manage my stomach right. For heartburn, I spell relief R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
Rolaids really does spell relief.
Like a sponge, Rolaids antacid medicine consumes 100% of the acid required to give millions 100% relief.
With that batting average, it's R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
For millions of Americans, Rolaids spells 100% relief. Enter the Rolaids Relief Man sweepstakes. Entry blanks at your store.
McNugget Mania marches on. From coast to coast, the call has gone out.
How about more McNuggets?
More McNuggets!
McDonald's responds with a big new Chicken McNuggets 20 size. 20 chunks of tender, boneless chicken. Choose 3 of 4 delicious sauces. Eat them on land, at sea, and in the air. Chicken McNuggets have changed the face of chicken loving in America.
McNuggets, McDonald's and you.
One of the nice things about being in this new building doing the 5 o'clock show is the opportunity to introduce you to someone you already know. We welcome Bud Kraling to the 5 o'clock show, a guy doing the weather, who can warm up the coldest of days. Welcome to the program. Glad to have you here.
Try to warm it up a little bit. Say, when you were a youngster in Muncie, Indiana,
yes,
did you sell newspapers on the street?
Yeah, I helped some people sell papers.
Did you ever say, extra, read all about it?
I made the mistake of saying that once, and a guy took an extra paper from me.
Just took it right away
That's
from
right.
you. Well, I thought this is such an extra special edition of the 5 o'clock. I just want you to say, extra, read all about it.
Extra!
Hey, that's great. Okay. I have some extra news. Some temperatures here and there, and a little talk about monarch butterflies and how cold it was at West Yellowstone, Montana, and how much rain in Gage, Oklahoma. Well, first, in the metro area, it is sunny, and our temperature is 65 degrees, 54% humidity. The wind is from the northwest at 8 miles an hour, and the pressure reading is 30.32, and the pressure is steady. Well, about monarch butterflies. I had a chance over the weekend to drive down to Rochester, and then on I-90 from Rochester to St. Charles, noticed a number of monarchs migrating north to south across the interstate. Well, this one here I caught perched, but the others were traveling north to south. Also, a great number of woolly bears traveling in the same direction. I don't know if they're trying to tell us something about the coming season or not. There are a few showers that are scattered from Lake Mille Lacs down through the Rochester area and over to Eau Claire, moving to the southeast, 10 to 15 miles an hour. But we're forecasting clear to partly cloudy in our metro area for tonight. There were some heavy rains today in Oklahoma and down through Texas. And here we mentioned Gage, Oklahoma, with 4 inches of rain today. Brownsville, Texas, an inch of rain. Showers scattered along the Gulf, Florida, up the eastern seaboard, and to the nation's capital, an inch of rain today. Warmer temperatures continued along the eastern seaboard, and Raleigh, North Carolina at 91 this afternoon. Well, it was 70 degrees at Boston, 68 at Detroit. Temperatures in the upper 80s in the Tampa area, with showers kind of keeping down the temperature there today. The cool spot was West Yellowstone, Montana, with the afternoon temperature at 27 degrees. Still temperatures in the 90s from Austin out through the southern part of California. That forecast tonight in the metro area, clear to partly cloudy with light winds, and the evening temperature at 45 degrees. And for tomorrow, partly cloudy, a 20% chance of showers. Those in the afternoon, light winds again. The afternoon temperature tomorrow at 65 degrees. So we'll start showers tomorrow afternoon, and then chance of showers continuing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, with temperatures of 65 to 70 in the afternoon and 45 to 48 for the evening temperatures. Give me that extra one more time, could you?
Extra. Read all about it.
There's the extra special edition of the weather forecast.
I like it. It's very nice for you for you to be on the program.
Thank you.
It really is nice. Have you ever been to Universal City out in Hollywood?
No, I haven't. No.
You know, I think if you're a movie fan, I think that's a place you have to go. You just have to see Universal Studios. It's in Hollywood. That's where Bill Carlson went to prepare today's entertainment update.
With an entertainment update from Hollywood, I'm Bill Carlson. From this vantage point along Mulholland Drive, movie sound stages stretch almost as far as the eye can see. In the foreground lies Universal Studios, the largest studio in Hollywood and operator of perhaps the most successful tour of a working place ever developed. Actually, the tour had its beginnings back in 1915, when Carl Laemmle opened the studios and allowed visitors on the lot to watch silent films being made. He charged a quarter a head, sold each a box lunch, and allowed them to cheer the good guys and boo the bad ones. Though the practice was stopped when sound came along, it was revived 19 years ago and today employs a staff of 2,000 to handle the more than 3 million visitors who come every year to learn the secrets of how movies and TV shows are made.
We thought at one time that if you gave them the secrets, they wouldn't go see the film. Well, quite the opposite is true. They actually, after learning how, they'll wait for that television program or that feature so they can tell the person that they go, I know how they did this, or I know how they did that.
Created primarily to generate awareness of the studio's film products, the tour itself has now become one of the most successful products in Universal's 68-year history.
It's like having a hit movie guaranteed year after year.
With photographer Kent Westberg, I'm Bill Carlson with an entertainment update from Hollywood.
Ralph John Fritz joins us with a sports report next on the Tuesday 5. I'm going to reach out and touch him now. Isn't that wonderful? Right now, it's 22 minutes past the hour.
Norwest banks mean different things to different customers.
Norwest is banking and the whole.
You're people when you come in here. You're not just another number.
No, it's not just the bank. It's part of my life. I put my life savings in here.
Norwest to me means commitment.
I am this happy with this bank, and it's the people's bank, and this is what makes the difference.
Norwest is banking and a whole lot more.
Shh! Don't wake him.
Little Bear's the grumpiest pirate afloat.
But we're supposed to cheer him up.
Who goes there?
Snap, crackle, pop.
Sir? State your business, mates.
To put fun into your morning.
What be fun?
Kellogg's Rice Krispie cereal.
It's fun to put Snap, Crackle, Pop into your morning.
Part of this complete breakfast.
A talking treasure. Sir, where do pirates come from?
Pittsburgh. Where else?
Next time you're planning to fly somewhere, consider going with a carrier who has spent the last 6.5 years rebuilding its entire fleet. A fleet that now offers you some of the newest, most technologically advanced equipment in the world. Not surprisingly, it's also among the most comfortable. Next time, see what a thrill it is to fly on a train.
Hi, Dennis James here to tell you about a sport coat spectacular now on at the Clothing Distribution Center, the Minneapolis Menswear Miracle. Thousands of new for fall famous label sport coats now at about half what you'd expect to pay. Pure wool blazers or Welch tweed sport coats, $79.90. Corduroys with suede elbow patches, $49.90. Camel hair, Harris tweeds, you name it. You'll find it for about half the typical retail price at the Clothing Distribution Center, the Minneapolis Miracle.
Well, the Gopher football team faces the monumental task of the season this Saturday night at the Dome, and here's what Joe Salem's inexperienced team will be up against. The #1 team in the nation, that's all, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, with quarterback Turner Gill at the controls. Here's Gill. He can play it straight or go for the fancy stuff, and here's one of the fancy ones. And then there's All-American I-back Mike Rozier. He ran for 192 yards against Wyoming, scored 4 touchdowns. In its first 2 games, Nebraska's outscored its opponents 100-26. Nevertheless, the Gophers are going to go through with the game this Saturday, folks. And at today's Gopher workout, Coach Joe Salem told me how he plans to attack Nebraska, and that will not be an easy task. Joe Salem, head coach of the Gophers.
You know, we're not going to be favored to win by any shades of the imagination. I think we're 4 touchdown underdogs or something. But, you know, this team is a different team we got here. And we're going to go out and play as hard as we can and see what happens. Sometimes you get a break or something happens. And if they're on top of their game and if they're doing everything right, then we're in for a long night.
And I think perhaps it could be the latter. It could be a long night for Smokey Joe and his group from the Minnesota Gophers. Team USA beat Finland today in hockey 7-3, and so Team USA goes over 500 for the first time. And the Vikings cut tight end Norris Brown, the rookie from Georgia, and they signed running back Ricky Bell, the rookie who is from St. John's, one of the last men to be cut down. But getting back to that Gopher thing, though, I remember a year or two ago I said I'd eat my hat if the Gophers would beat Michigan. Michigan was upset by the Gophers. Maybe I should say the same thing again. I don't know.
Well, we'll be watching. I hope that perhaps you bring that hat along with you next time.
We will do that.
Okay, RJ. Time now to check with Dale Dobish. Change pictures here, and we're going to find him up over the, looks like the Minnesota or Mississippi River. One of them. You can't be wrong that way, Dale. Come on in.
All right, Don. You were, well, Mississippi River. It's downtown St. Paul, Don. And kind of a pretty afternoon. We thought we'd give you a little Chamber of Commerce shot there for St. Paul. Anyhow, you can see, Don, traffic moving along 94 here, coming down the Spaghetti, moving very, very smoothly. In fact, we still have no reported problems anywhere in the metropolitan area, Don. We've gotten through a very, very smooth rush hour, so everybody should be home very much on time this evening and with no complications. So from beautiful downtown St. Paul, we're going to say goodnight. Everybody join us again tomorrow.
Dale, do you got a new set up there, like new upholstery or anything in your chopper?
No, Don, I don't, but I certainly do like the looks of yours.
Good. Thank you very much. Nice report, Dale. Let's go over and see Annie. She's got some stories about medical costs.
Right, starting next month, the federal government will try a new way to keep Medicare costs down. It's a change in the way they calculate how much they pay hospitals. Some local hospitals are concerned over how this change is going to affect them. Our health and science reporter psychologist Dr. Larry Kuttner has been covering this and hopefully can uncomplicate it for us and explain what the change is. What does it mean?
Well, it is a very, very complicated, convoluted economic story. What's happening, as you said, the government is trying to save money. They're changing the way they reimburse hospitals for Medicare patients. The way it works right now is the hospital submits a bill based on its costs. So if they do a particular procedure or they have certain lab tests, that's what they bill for. What they're going to do, and this will start on October 1st to be phased in over about 4 years, is the hospitals will be reimbursed according to the diagnosis of the patients. What's called the diagnosis-related groups. And there's going to be more and more publicity about this as the year follows.
So the number of days that person spends in the hospital and the number of tests and lab work the person has makes no difference?
That's the catch. If the person goes in and has 10 tests and stays 20 days, the hospital gets the same amount of money for the hospital stay that they would get if the person stayed for 1 day and had only 2 tests. So that's something that obviously is of concern to hospitals. It's putting pressure on them to go for the most efficient, what some people may call the cheapest way to treat people with certain problems. It's a push to do things like not keep people in the hospital for the same amount of time. It's a way to use more outpatient treatment. It's a way to keep people at various centers outside of the hospital just before going in for surgery or after surgery, something like that.
And my next question is, how are they responding? How are the people at the hospitals reacting to this?
Well, the people at the hospitals are, as you might guess, a bit nervous about this. There's going to be, for some of the larger hospitals, some decrease in the amount of money they get. And they're worried that some of the smaller rural hospitals, the ones that don't have the same overhead, the ones that perhaps don't have the same critical care patients, the same patients with the more complicated problems, that they're going to be making more money in the rural areas, less in the urban areas, the more sophisticated, if you can call them that, hospitals.
Do you think consumers are going to notice a difference?
Well, at first, consumers probably won't notice any difference at all. This is only for inpatient hospital bills. It's only for patients who are Medicare patients, which is about 30 to 50% of the typical Twin Cities hospital population. And so they're not going to see it at all.
More on this tonight at what time?
6 o'clock.
Thank you very much. We'll wrap up the Tuesday 5 in just a moment.
There's no place to save like the home sale at Target. When it comes to savings on lamps, Target has the touch. Touch lamps. Just touch any metal on the lamp to turn it on, adjust brightness, or turn it off. Yet touch lamps use conventional one-way bulbs. Choose the brass-plated candlestick style or the ginger jar in 3 designer colors. Touch lamps. Home sale priced at just $39.99 each. Get the savings touch during the home sale at Target.
Flavor is fabulous.
Tastes so good.
It's so sweet, I can't believe it's sugarless.
Taste the one.
It has tremendously long-lasting flavor.
Taste the one that'll win you over to sugarless gum.
4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommend sugarless gum for their patients who chew gum.
Tried in sugarless gum won't harm my teeth, and I still have the great flavor.
Taste the one that'll win you over to sugarless gum.
Some people think MCI just offers long-distance savings to big cities, but MCI can now reach every single town. We mean every town. Towns like Happy Jack, Arizona, Embarrass, Wisconsin, Point Blank, Texas. From most areas, you can reach the most remote phone in any other state and save over bill on every call. Not just to every metropolis, but every tiny town. Call MCI. Now you can reach every phone from coast to coast.
Finally tonight, if Ronald Reagan thought being president meant never having to say you're sorry, he was wrong. Today, Mr. Reagan apologized to the people of Keister, Minnesota, and his congressman, Tim Penny. You see, Mr. Reagan had used the word keister on 2 public occasions to represent a part of the human anatomy, like when he complained about news leaks, saying that he had it up to his keister. Well, based on Keister's protest, the townsfolk, that is, Mr. Reagan vowed today never to use the town's name in that fashion again, and you can count on that, Annie. We're going to be watching. I mean, we're going to keep a close eye on it.
We'll watch out for it.
Nice being with you on this
Welcome to the new building.
Hey, this is wonderful.
Thanks for joining us.
Dave's got more now.
when he's headed up to his keister, that's not very high. It could go up to here, you know. In 1.5 hours on the 6 p.m. report, we'll look at an issue that's been sparking controversy in the western suburbs, the proposed extension of County Road 18. Coming up now, CBS News and Dan Rather.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. President Reagan today took the muzzle off American military might in Lebanon in what was seen as a blunt warning to Syria to curb its Druze Muslim allies. Mr. Reagan said that U.S. Marines now may call in airstrikes to protect their peacekeeping positions. 4 Marines have been killed and 28 wounded in 2 weeks of heightened fighting in Lebanon. We have reports from Leslie Stahl at the White House and Bob Simon with American forces in the Mediterranean.
President Reagan has ordered a more active U.S. role in the Lebanon fighting, including possible protection of the Lebanese army. For the first time, he has authorized Marine ground commanders in Beirut to call in airstrikes from the supporting offshore Navy flotilla. White House spokesman explained that the airstrikes, along with naval bombardments, could be launched even if the Marines are not under direct attack. And those strikes can now be ordered by the commanders in Lebanon without approval from Washington. U.S. firepower could also be extended to protect the Italian, French, and British units in the multinational peacekeeping force, as well as the Lebanese army, says a spokesman, if that army is experiencing difficulty that poses a threat to the Marines. The president issued the new orders amid reports of heightened hostilities in the foothills of the Shuf Mountains. If the Druze militia capture the strategic town of Souk El Garb, they will have a straight line of sight down on the Marines and the U.S. Embassy. Officials say the Marines now have the authority to deny the Druze this key terrain. By going public with the new orders, the administration is sending a message to Syria that the U.S. will not abandon the government of Amin Gemayel and will demonstrate to other Arab nations that the U.S. is a reliable ally. White House officials spent the day on Capitol Hill arguing against congressional war powers resolutions to limit the amount of time the Marines could stay in Lebanon. They say the resolutions would encourage the Syrians to keep up the fight and endanger the safety